Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Faith in Places monthly story circle of migration. I would like for you all to make sure you all tune in and check with Faith in Place frequently because this will be a monthly thing. So with that being said, I would like to start off with a brief introduction about the Migration ME program and then introduce our guest, Alvyn Walker. Okay. The beginnings of the Migration ME program came about as a result of the realized concern that there were not enough people of color, maybe brown and Black people, who were visibly engaged in available extracurricular outdoor activities, stewardship, and earth care. The idea, Migration, Monarchs, and Me, came from the heart and mind of the program's creator, Veronica Cow. Our journeys through life are varied. The struggles, hardship, and joys we have faced shape each of us in distinct ways. Migrating to a new place is one of the major journeys made in life. Everyone has a story of migration, whether it's one's own migration story or one that has been inherited from loved ones. Stories of migration are all around us. All living creatures migrate. Migration occurs for different reasons, from different places, and in different ways. During migration, some things accompany the migrating creature and some things are left behind. Upon arrival at that destination, a different world awaits, but familiar connections to the place of origin through cultural, spiritual, and family traditions are maintained. These connections are directly tied to experience and use of the provisions of nature, specifically land, water, and air. Story circles provide the opportunity to hear personal migrating stories and see the connection between that experience and the environment. It is an event that brings together people of all ages with the rich variety of experiences while providing the storyteller the opportunity to recall, reflect, laugh, and sometimes cry while celebrating, I made it. With that being said, again, I would like to introduce Alvyn Walker. Alvyn Walker is a Green Team member at Windsor Park Lutheran Church located on the southeast side. Alvyn Walker will share his story of them migrating from Liberia and also their story of being a war veteran. With that being said, Alvyn, I will start off with a few questions and you can share your story. The first question is, where are you from? Why did you leave and what year? How did you get here? And who came with you?
Thank you, Princess. And thank you all for joining and being a part of my migration story. I am from Liberia, which is approximately 6 time zones away and about 6,000 miles away, which is on the west coast of Africa. I have been here now for over 40 years. I came here with my mom and 2 cousins. When we were on our way here, we had just gotten through a coup. So in Liberia, there was a military takeover. Sorry about the sirens. We know which part of town we're in. But anyway, we had left a country that had just had a coup, which is basically the military overthrowing a civilian government. So this was in the spring, what would be considered spring here in this country of 1980. So this was April of 1980. And by December of 1980, we were on a plane, 747 jet, Pan Am jet, from Monrovia, Liberia. And we had one fuel stop in Dakar, Senegal. And then we flew over the Atlantic Ocean and came to JFK Airport in New York. And this was approximately December 30th or so in 1980. So needless to say, it was a culture shock, particularly weather-wise. So we actually spent just a few hours in New York because our family was actually in Chicago. So we left Chicago, we left New York around the same day, or maybe it was a half a day or so that we spent there, and came here to O'Hare Airport, and have called Chicago my home of record ever since. So this has been coming up on year number 42.
I just want to ask a few questions about your homeland. What do you remember about it? Like, what was the nature like there? You know, the food, like, what do you really miss from Liberia?
Fruit trees, for the most part. We could get fruit all year round. So, you know, climbing trees like guava trees, or we call it plum, but you all call it mango. Plum trees, avocado trees, we call them butter pears, but you call them avocado. So we got to kind of make sure we get the translations right. So climbing those trees, playing cops and robbers. We used to imitate our favorite shows as growing up, Starsky and Hutch and The Rookies and shows like that were our favorite. Me and my cousins those were our favorite shows. So those are the things I miss, just climbing trees and playing make-believe cops and robbers.
So I recall you saying that you already had people here from Liberia that were in Chicago. Did they leave for some of the same reasons? And what stories did you hear about America while growing up?
Yeah, so they left. I had two aunts who left together, and this was in the mid-70s. They came for school, and then I had a third aunt that left a few years later, and then an uncle that left quite a few more years later. So he left the latest. So between mid to late 1970s, there was a migration of an uncle and some aunts and three aunts, and they all came to Chicago. So, and they left primarily for educational reasons. They had completed their they were coming here for post-secondary education. They had completed their high school level educational requirements and were coming for college.
Okay, and what stories did you hear about America?
Yeah, so I guess my stories would probably be best told through clothing. I always got clothes from my aunts, clothes, shoes. So I guess the thing that stood out to me about America was how fashionable people were. They would send pictures of them, you know, dressed up, and how fashionable they were dressed, and the people that were dressed just as fashionably as they were when they went out to different events. We would see those types of pictures. And even when they were not going to different events, it was like you had an idea that America was a place where basically the whole world converged. So if there was a thing about America that stood out to me, was that it would be a place where it would be a very cosmopolitan, well, you know, rounded, multi-ethnic, multinational type of place. And the other thing that I was told, at least, was that people weren't allowed to spit on the street. People weren't allowed to spit on the sidewalk. Okay. That was a big thing. They used to say America was so clean that people wouldn't dare spit on the street, or else you'd get fined, you'd get arrested, stuff like that. But obviously, when I got here, that wasn't the case. But those were some of the stories.
Okay. Also, did you learn English in Liberia, or did you learn when you came here?
So the official language of Liberia, the language that's taught in school and the language that the government uses is English, but we have about a couple of dozen or so different languages. There are tribal differences. So those tribal differences, they all have their own unique language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let me see, was it, okay, so I know you said that when you came, it was cold.
Yes.
What was that like? I mean, because I can't even imagine.
So when I came, I had, of course, no winter coat, obviously. I came in a cotton fabric, white, two-piece, like a jumpsuit with a hood. Needless to say, we left directly from the airport and went to a mall because it was, like I said, late December, so it was winter. It was 1980. And if anybody knows anything about the winter that happened between 1980-81 and 1981-82, we had some of the most frigid temperatures. There were like record-setting wind chill factors during those winters. So naturally, it was a shock. But the thing about it was that I wasn't like taken aback by it. I saw it as a challenge. I saw it as, hey, you know what? This is something I could get used to. It didn't make me want to not be here. And the other part about it was I liked the snow. I didn't particularly like the cold, but I liked the snow. So, you know, that made it a little bit better, but it was cold. And I was like, this is not where Black people are supposed to be. I'm happy that Marcus Garvey at least got some of us out of here. But, you know, other than that, I was like, yeah, we'll adjust. We can get used to it. Because the other problem was that, you know, leaving Liberia was a good thing at the time because of the turmoil that was happening there and the turmoil that was gonna continue to happen over a few decades.
Okay, so the next question I want to ask is about the cuisine. So what did you think of American food?
Oh man, American food. I think I had a little bit of taste of American food while I was back home because Liberia always tried to imitate America. So if anybody knows the story of Liberia, is that you should know that when the American Colonization Society was formed, the place that they sent free slaves that wanted to go back to Africa was to Liberia. So Liberia is kind of like a bit of a microcosm of what America is. So long story short, we had an opportunity to, you know, sample some American food like hamburgers especially. So there was this place called King Burger. I guess they were trying to imitate the American burger style type of fare. So I had a little bit of that. I thought it was okay. When I came here, I still preferred Liberian food, and I still do. But you know, once I got here, because of the multicultural upbringing that I had in Liberia, I also experienced other types of foods. For example, there was a Mandarin restaurant that I was able to go to. There were also Lebanese people in Liberia. The population of Lebanese people in Liberia is very big, was very big. In one place where I lived, my next door neighbors were from Korea. So I had a taste of Korean kimchi when I was growing up. So when it came to food, I got exposed to different types of foods at an early age. So that was a good thing.
Okay. So the next question I want to get into is like, what part of Chicago did you move to? And like education. So you were 12. And so what was the school like? Was it easy to adjust? Was it hard? Did you make friends pretty easy? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the schooling here starts on a different schedule. The Liberian school system was like the British school system, more like that. And our schools started when the year started. So we started in February and went until July was like our break, our short break. And then November was like October, November was like our long break. So when I came here, I had missed a full semester of 7th grade. So I only had one semester of 7th grade and then 8th grade. But I didn't have any problems keeping up. The Liberian school system while I was there was very good. And I actually kind of thought it was slower here as far as the learning, the learning environment than it was in Liberia. So I didn't have any problems keeping up. Plus, I was a bookworm anyway growing up. I used to read things like almanacs and encyclopedias. So I didn't have any issues with the school. Now with friends, it was different. The thing about it was I went to a Catholic grammar school for my last year and a half. So that school system, it being a religious school system, was kind of what I experienced in Liberia because I went to a Lutheran school system for the most part while in Liberia. And the Lutherans and the Catholics are pretty similar. We don't have priests in the Lutheran church, but a lot of the doctrine is pretty similar. So I went to a Catholic school, and the school had a lot of also ethnic diversity because I went to school with Haitians, with Poles, with I even had a Japanese friend in 7th grade. And so that particular mixture also helped me to adjust a little bit better. But of course, there was always the similar stuff with the teasing because of the accent and all the other stuff that you experience once you come here from another country. So that was a small negative part, but I didn't let that bother me.
Okay, so I just wanted to know, or we wanted to know, like, how far did you get with your education? Did you go all the way through college?
Yes. So when I left grammar school, I went to Hyde Park Career Academy. I knew pretty much what I wanted to do. So when I got to Hyde Park and there was an opportunity to take like drafting classes and construction classes, they had those opportunities. Unfortunately, our high school systems, especially the public high school systems, don't have the type of career level, educational experience that I had when I was coming through high school. So I already basically knew how a house could be constructed or deconstructed, or how electricity worked, or how plumbing worked, and all that type of stuff before I left high school. So I knew things like direct current flow, alternating current flow, balloon frame construction, platforms frame construction, oblique drawings, 3D drawings, all that type of stuff. We were studying that in high school. So that's where I wanted to go. That's where I wanted my career path to be. So there was a really good 2-year program at Daly College that was being taught by professors who had taught at major universities around the country. One teacher actually taught at Cornell University, the architecture department at Cornell. So we had a very rich and diverse 2-year pre-architecture program at a Daly College. And then I went, after Daly College, I went to the Army. That's when I joined the Army Reserves. And then the unit that I joined, well, we'll set that to the side and talk about college. So after that, when I went to the Army Reserves, you know, when you come back from basic training and advanced individual training, AIT, you get to come back home. You don't have to go to a unit or anything. So all you have to do is come back home and then go to a drill every month, 1 weekend a month. So I went back and enrolled at the academy for my interior design. So I did interior design work to finish up. And then I worked in the merchandise mart for a design showroom. Baker Knapp and Tubbs Interiors was what the company was called. So that was the career path that I chose for the civilian side. You know, worked there for a little over 5 years.
Okay. So you were getting into joining the reserves, and then I guess you went, or were you in the Army?
Yeah, so I was Army Reserves, and then the unit that I actually joined was what is called a capstone unit. So when I went to the Army, I studied, I got a, what they call a MOS, which is a military occupational specialty qualification in transportation management, transportation engineering. I went to Fort Eustis in Virginia for that. And then we also had an opportunity to do transportation management specialties that had to do with movements tracking, which is you are able to track movements of transportation elements via the computer. So when I did all of that while in Virginia, and then when I came back, the unit that we got attached to, the unit that I got assigned to, was actually a subordinate unit, is what they call them, a subordinate unit of EUCOM, which is the European Command. So all of my like 2-week annual trainings or my field exercises were all held in Europe. So I got a chance to go to Europe like at least once a year for 8 years or so, 8 or 9 years. And I spent a lot of time in Germany, on bases in Germany. I also spent some time in England and Italy doing different field exercises. And then I got to visit like a bunch of other Western and Central European countries. Also during this time, when I first joined, the Gulf War started. So we got sent to Germany to be a capstone, what they call a capstone unit, because they were deploying a lot of the units out of EUCOM. European Command was deploying to Saudi Arabia to, get Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. So when they left to go to Saudi Arabia, we replaced them in Germany to do the work that needed to be done at the ports, at the airports and the seaports to keep equipment being flowing through to the war effort.
Okay. I'm wondering, how many languages do you speak? So that was really.
I wish I remember a lot of the languages that I learned fluently, but the languages that I learned that I no longer am fluent in is French, German, a little Italian, a little Hungarian, and then I don't remember my native dialect from Liberia, but it's called Kwele. I studied it in school. I can speak a few words of it, but I don't know it fluently. I'm a terrible linguist. I'm not good at remembering languages, unfortunately.
Can you understand your native language?
Quite a bit of it, but
Okay.
not I can't you know intelligently hold a conversation. No.
Oh, okay. One thing I just wanted to get back to. So was Hyde Park, that area, that was the place where your brother, your aunts and everything settled at?
When I got here, they were in South Shore.
South Shore.
They were,
Okay.
yeah, they were on Coles Avenue in South Shore.
Okay. Also, so now that you're done with the Army, so how many years did you do in the Army?
Just under 23.
Wow, that's a long time.
It flew by. It didn't feel like 23 years. It was probably because I was moving around so much. I was doing a bunch of stuff.
Okay. So now I want to get to how you transition to nature, because you are a green team, part of Faith in Place that I mentioned earlier, Windsor Park Lutheran Church. And so I want to know, how did you become involved in nature, and tell us a little bit about your community garden that you have and your future plans and anything that you may do to help war veterans. I know you work a program with that. So just tell us a little bit about where you are now and what you hope for the future.
Sure, thank you. So I am the gardening lead at Windsor Park Lutheran Church. We have a community garden. It's a 224-foot by 98-foot plot of land, which is approximately a half an acre, maybe a little more. But we have been gardening on that particular space for this was the 9th year. So basically 10 growing seasons since 2013. And the way that got established was there was a opportunity for the garden to serve as a host site for the One Summer Chicago youth employment program, summer program. So Leave No Veteran Behind was the organization that got the contract with the city through the Department of Family Support Services, and asked the church to use the property as a host site to train young people in gardening and other sustainable ways of, earning a living. So that first year we had 60 youth from, I believe it was about 5 or so different high schools. A lot of them were on the southwest and southeast sides of the city. And they all came to one location. And, although they were from different parts of the city, we had a very, successful engagement with them. There was no real threat of violence or anything like that. So basically what that environment allowed them to have is a safe summer. And they were there for 6 weeks and without any incident. And I think they learned a lot. They learned about gardening, they learned about biking, they learned about how to conserve water, energy. They learned things like how to insulate their homes so that it's more energy efficient. So they had a whole lot of life experiences that you would want to have as an adult, and they were young adults with these types of life experiences. So that program eventually evolved out of the church because the city wanted these to be more of a part of their schooling. So a lot of the programming that was in the One Summer Chicago envelope that was part of a remote site went to the schools. So the local high schools were the ones that were eventually the beneficiary of the One Summer Chicago programming. After that, which was the last summer was 2015, during the summer of 2015, we transitioned into more of a community garden. And so we had community members come out and get plots and wanted to grow things on the land. Eventually that evolved into church members over the subsequent years, becoming more involved with gardening in that space. So today we have over a dozen or so different individuals that came to the garden this year. Over the years, we have had over a couple of dozen individuals and groups that have, engaged with us in the space and been able to garden from it or reap the benefits of some of the things that were grown in the garden. So for example, we have an opportunity to serve as a food pantry at the church. So we're able to donate some of that food, some of that produce for food pantry distribution. Moving forward, the plan is to expand some of that capacity. But for me personally, turning the space into a more sustainable growing space, not just for gardening, but just to turn the land into something that is more conducive for growing anything. Because if anybody knows about how agriculture gets done, our system of how agriculture gets done leads to a whole lot of resource depletion, because we do agriculture like we do mining. So we don't treat the land sustainably when we grow things on it. So my focus is more on making the space something that is resilient to the pressures that come from the style or the format of how we grow things. So just enriching the land so that it enriches us. And we can continue to grow stuff that we eat, but also allow the land to be able to replenish itself and allow us to grow more abundantly. And so that being said, I've been able to partner with a fellow beekeeper in South Shores. We have a beehive that we actually split this year. So we're able to get so many bees on the property. The honeybees were so prolific that after the first season, the season of 2021 into 2022, we were able to split the hive. So now we have two hives out of the one that we actually purchased last year with a grant opportunity from a Leave No Veteran Behind. So we're continually trying to make sure that the hives are able to thrive, and so that we can continue to invite more diversity of pollinators to the garden. We also, from Faith in Place, were able to get some of the Asclepias, the milkweed plants. So we put a lot of milkweed over the years. We've put a lot of milkweed in, a lot of seeds in, a lot of plants in over the last 3 or 4 years or so. So we've got milkweed that's been coming back, and we've got monarchs that come to visit the site ever since. So we've been a kind of like a beginning stages of the monarch butterfly, attracting a space. So we were not like prolific yet, but that's something I'd like to see more of.
Okay. Also, unfortunately, the monarch have been listed as an endangered species.
Yes.
Hopefully, with Windsor Park and more of our green teams, we can make a difference. And you're doing your part. So they say if you plant them, they will come. So it was some milkweed I planted like 4 years ago, and I finally seen it last year. Unfortunately, I didn't get that many monarchs, but hopefully next year they'll come. And so I want to know some of the things that you are growing. Are you growing anything from your homeland in your garden?
Yes, my aunts have grown, for me, I've grown a lot of okra over the years. I've grown a lot of eggplant. I've grown collard greens, because we eat a lot of greens. We eat a lot of, I've put in sweet potatoes. We eat the potato greens. We eat, I think you all call them bitter melons. We call them bitter balls. My aunts grow those. My three aunts are in the garden, and they grow a variety of traditional Liberian fare that we eat.
Okay. And I also wanted to say I've met your aunts and they were really, really nice. And I want to know, were you growing Scotch bonnet peppers?
Yes, they were growing those. I've grown in the past. They've grown Scotch bonnet. They've grown. I believe it was habanero also. They grew those too. I've grown ghost peppers. I've grown. I know that's like about the hottest there is, right? I've grown chilies.
They got some hotter. They got something called Carolina Reaper, I think. So
yes, I was just about to say I grew Carolina Reapers for the first time this year.
And how was that?
Oh, you don't want to mess with it. You don't even want to get it on your hands. You want to wash your hands like 3 or 4 times if you get it on your hands. It's terrible.
Yeah, that is terrible. No, I wanted to mention the Scotch bonnet because I was trying like a lot of different cuisine and it was always asking for a Scotch bonnet pepper and I could never find it in the store. And everyone would say, well, go to the African market. And I was like, well, where are they? So I came to Windsor Park and your aunt was like, well, here's some Scotch bonnet right there. And so I was just so excited and I went home and made me a Jamaican curry or whatever. So I was so excited. So awesome. Alvyn Walker provided me with my first Scotch bonnet pepper. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank my aunts.
Your aunts.
They introduced it to the garden. Yes.
Okay. So I just have a few more questions. And then, so have you been back home at all? I mean, back to the home where you're from. I know you said this is home now, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I've been basically everywhere else, but back there. The closest I got was like, it wasn't really close. We had a mission in Egypt called Bright Star. And this was like back in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And that was the last time I was on the African continent. So I do plan on going back at some point though. I would definitely want to go back, and there are some initiatives that I'm getting off the ground here, like in the technology space that I would like to see happen there.
Okay, so your aunts, have they been back?
Yeah, so they've been going back over the last couple of years to Liberia for like a few weeks, close to a month or a little over a month. But yeah, they've been consistent about going back over the last 3 years or so.
Well, I'm kind of living through them. Have they said it changed? Anything different? Do they like the changes, if there are any?
So it's much more difficult, lifestyle wise than what it was when I was there, simply because what has happened over the past 40 years or so is we've had a coup. Well, first of all, we had a riot that, kind of like started to see the destabilization of the central government happen. And then we had a coup where, as I said before, the government was overthrown and the military took over. And since the military took over, there has been a series of civil wars. There were 2 really big ones in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Like, for example, when I was in the Army doing Army Reserve stuff and in basic training in AIT, there was a civil war going on. And then when I was in, because one of the places I got deployed to was Bosnia. When I was in Bosnia, it was a coming to an end for that civil war. And then I got deployed to Kosovo and Afghanistan. During the same time, there was a second civil war going on in Liberia. So it's like it has been really unstable over the past 35 or so years. It's just been like over the past maybe decade or so that things have now, maybe a decade and a half, that things have now started to kind of gestate a little bit, settle down a little bit. And now people are trying to go back and help with recovery because the country is devastated basically because of that. But things are starting to, develop in a way that looks like there will be some stability. The other problem is that you have a lot of political instability because of, substandard leadership, substandard political leadership. So if you have that situation, if you have an unstable, political system in a country that's already devastated, then growth, is stunted. It doesn't occur like it should.
Okay, and so I'm just asking a question. So did you have family that stayed in Liberia when your aunts go out? They visiting family?
Yes, we have a family farm in Liberia. And so a lot of the family is still on the farm. And so when my aunts go, they're able, or when my aunts and my mother go, they are able to stay with family there. But, it's still costly. It's still, because you can't go there and stay for free. So that's also a way of, trying to contribute to the economy of the country is going back there and, purchasing lodging and things like that, food and whatnot, so that the people there are able to sustain themselves.
Okay. Also, what was the other question I had? Oh, what is one of your favorite dishes? As I know you said you still prefer Liberian cuisine. So what's the one thing that what's your go-to?
So it's called palm butter. Mm-hmm. So palm butter is the palm nut.
Okay.
If you know the tropical palm trees, it grows on a bunch, and that bunch has like dozens of nuts on it. And so the nut is encased in a husk. And the husk is what you peel off. And then what you do with it is you grind it and you sift it. And the liquid that comes from there can you can boil and it thickens into a sauce. And so that's how and then you add like a bunch of seasonings and meats and stuff like that in there. You add like a lot of dried ingredients, a lot of dried meat ingredients like fish. We got something called boni. It's like a type of dried fish. And then we also put in like meats, like smoked meats in there too. The other thing that the palm tree does is that's how you get palm oil.
Okay.
So there is a thing called palm oil, and then when we make the palm butter, we also add the palm oil to it. And then, like I said, season it up and put a lot of meat and stuff in there. Okay. But yeah, that's my go-to. And you eat it with rice. And I have a special way that I like to eat it. It's with something called fufu. So I eat it with, and I eat it with rice.
Okay, cool. So we have a few questions. Okay. And so one of the questions is from Raymond, and he said Liberia is richly endowed. Hey, Raymond. I remember you. With mineral resources such as diamond, iron ore, and gold. Could you speak on this?
Sure. So one of the places that I visited is this place in Liberia was divided into counties. So I visited this place called Nimba County. Nimba County is where the diamond mines are. There's a place called Mount Nimba. And so that mountain has a whole lot of iron ore. That's the main place. There's a lot of diamonds. The diamonds are more towards the western part of the country, where Sierra Leone is. I don't know if you know the story about Sierra Leone. That's one of the places where there was a whole lot of civil war too because of that. And so civil war happened in both countries because one of the things was because of the conflict, diamond trades. So there's been a lot of exploitation by your tech sector concerns, your jewelry concerns from like places like Belgium and Holland. There's been a lot of exploitation because of that, because of those mineral resources. There's also a very rich rubber deposit in Liberia. My family has a farm that has rubber. I grew up around rubber trees. So rubber is what you use to make things like the tires for our cars. So there's a process called vulcanization where you tap the rubber. Once the liquid comes down and it gets to be a certain temperature, then it hardens. Then you take that rubber and you add like a solution to it, and it does something called vulcanization, and that's how you get tires. Liberia was very big on the map for that. The Firestone Tire Corporation, basically, you can basically say they had a monopoly on the rubber plantation production in Liberia. And that was the problem, is that you had a lot of Western countries and these corporate interests that was there monopolizing like the natural resources. And so that was the main problem, was that, there were Western countries sending their corporate interests there to basically have a monopoly over all of the mineral resources.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I heard someone, and I hope I'm not saying it wrong, like they were saying that no one invades a poor country. I mean, they're there to get something from it, so our idea of what poor is totally different in what they seek and what they're getting. They want to tell you that they're doing you all a favor when they're actually taking and not properly compensating.
Exactly.
Yeah. We have another question. Samantha Miller, she wants to know, what city and region did you come from in Liberia?
So I'll speak on that from two levels. I was born I was born at a hospital that was built by Firestone.
Was it named Firestone? Tell me it wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was born in a place called Harbel in Liberia. It's kind of like near Monrovia, which is the capital city. Named after James Monroe, the 5th president of America. So let's just get that out there. I had, my maternal side of the family was from a county up north from where I was born. So that's where, kind of like between where I was born and going to the north is basically how I spend my vacations outside of those two counties. And so my vacations were spent with my grandparents, my grandfather on his farm. And then I had another area where I also had an opportunity to go, and this was like more towards the west in Liberia. So I visited in 2 different parts of the country from where I was born when I took my vacations. So I was born in one place, but I spent time with my maternal grandfather and with my maternal grandfather had children outside of my mother's mother. So I would spend time with that family on one of my other vacations. So it's like I was born in one place, but I stayed in 2 or 3 other places because of vacation.
Okay.
So it was kind of fun growing up like that.
Okay, so this is the last kind of a twofer, because I want to throw in my last question too. The one question was, why did your family choose? Because you said you all were in South Shore. So why South Shore? And then the last question would be, what is your fondest childhood memory?
Oh man, let me see why they. That's a good question. I think probably because of school. I think they went to schools like Governors State and Chicago State. Okay. And so that was like South. So I think it was easier for them for my aunts to commute to those schools if they were in South Shore, because it's a pretty straight shot from where they lived to that area where the colleges were. And I think at one point though, they did live up north, like 4800 North, I believe, for a little bit before they moved to the south side, to South Shore. And then my favorite childhood memory. I think it was when I would go to visit my cousins, and then we would and then I had an aunt who baked, and she would bake like these bow tie donuts that we would go and sell those at different places, and we would have our own little stash of them to take with us, because she would make them and then she would sprinkle sugar on them. So those were pretty good. So vacation time was like my most fun time, but I think a close second was like when I would just sit around reading, just being nerdy, I guess, sitting around reading. Because one of the biggest things I used to like to do was to see how fast I could read a book. Like I read the whole history of Robin Hood and his merry men in like one day.
Oh, wow.
And that was like, that was over 200 pages.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, Alvyn, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story of migration. I appreciate you. We learned a lot, and thank you.
Thank you, Princess. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, all guests. I appreciate you all being here. We did it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.